Good evening, Trinidad and Tobago. Welcome to Plain Talk. I am Phillip Edward Alexander. Today I'm joined by a bumper panel. We are going to be dealing with issues of national concern, matters in the public space that the population at large wants some clarity on. Hopefully we get ourselves to that when we come back after this. We filmed this on Wednesday, 28th of August. Joining me in studio today is well-known social and political activist Clyde Weatherhead.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Chairman of the Progressive Empowerment Party, Felicia Holder, back from her vacation.
Good day, good night, good evening, everybody.
Businessman, activist, politician, all of the above, Robert Amar.
It's a pleasure to be here. A very good evening to all.
Deputy political leader of the Progressive Empowerment Party, Tony Defoe.
Good evening, Trinidad and Tobago.
Activist and co-founder of the Progressive Empowerment Party, Ian Griffith.
Good evening. Good to be here. Thanks.
So let's just jump right into it. Thank you all for joining us on Plain Talk. The conversation in the public space deals with crime, and it only gets bumped out of the public space when something bigger comes along. The bigger issues that are happening right now, the public can't tell the difference between what is actual distraction and what is factual fact. We have a situation where our Prime Minister called a press conference to debunk the accusation, the direct accusation from a national security operative that he was given instructions by the Prime Minister to fire all the East Indians. Now the fact that Keith Rowley, who is never without his pre-action protocol sidekick Michael Cominer in matters like this, showed up for this press conference without a lawyer. And of all the accusations leveled against Keith Rowley, this one is the most serious of them. Because this, if true, is sedition. And the Commissioner of Police needs to be looking at this. Now, the first question I want to ask is because in politics, like in poker, we learn to look for tells. If you show up without your lawyer to tell Mr. Denny, is his name? Denny? Denny. To tell Mr. Denny, what you've said is salacious and defamatory, and we are suing you for a full retraction. That never made it into the press conference. If he did not have grounds to take Denny to court for defamation, are we in a situation where we could believe the accusations could have merit? That the Prime Minister could have instructed a senior operative in this country's national security apparatus to fire people based on race? Robert?
I find that a little bit hard to swallow, because I didn't hear the conversation. I am concerned based on his history, the way he has dealt with matters previously. Gives me the impression that there could be a significant amount of truth in his demeanor, in what he had instructed. And it really is a worrisome situation in a society like this that has really been very accommodating to the multiplicity of ethnicities that exist. For something like this to be coming at this time, to as create a racial discord in our society.
No, but his government, Robert, is backed by a small cabal of Syrian businessmen that have brought a war chest to the politics to make everything sedition. Everything was sedition. Stuart Young accused Devon Maraj of sedition when Devon Maraj wrote to get information on the hostile boat purchase. Sack Maraj is being investigated for sedition, as is Watson Duke. Everything with this government is sedition. They've brought a 1908 law and made it the way to silence people. But the heart of sedition, and Wayne Sturge, I tried to get Wayne Sturge on this panel today. Wayne Sturge is the only practicing lawyer in this country that has dealt with a matter of sedition. And I want Wayne Sturge to put into the public space, because this, if true, is the most egregious example of sedition we've ever had.
But just to add to that, that we also have an issue that he entered the parliament chamber over 10 years ago and pronounced about emails that were
But we come back to that,
given some
because that's
kind of-
treason.
Yeah.
And I'm saying that his plate getting kind of full.
Yeah.
And at some point, the commissioner of police is not going to be able to ignore, and anybody could jump in at any time on this one. But I want to I just want to pin this down though, because we need to frame the conversation in the country a little more focused. We need to stop being all over the place. We need to understand that this here, Denny said it, not with parliamentary privilege. We could argue that Rowley had parliamentary privilege when he dealt with Emailgate. And we're coming back to that because we'll never let that go. But how the PNM is handling this accusation. Rhoda Barrett today puts out a video of Denny allegedly climbing over a wall, escaping with some equipment that he took out. Rowley said this in his press conference, that instead of suing the gentleman for defamation of character, they are trying to destroy the man's character, the accuser. They're trying to destroy his character. And I sent a message today publicly, and I told Rhoda Barrett, you could show us a picture of Denny climbing the Eiffel Tower. It doesn't matter. It has nothing to do with if Keith Rowley instructed him to fire all the East Indians in the national security apparatus. And what is strange is, that is a matter that he could have turned the sedition charge, equal opportunities charges. He could have brought everything down on Denny. What does Denny have?
Well, I don't know what Denny have, but I will tell you that based on the structure, meaning how the system of police is being developed, Keith Rowley have no ability to fire nobody in the police service. Pete Rowley cannot instruct anybody to do anything in the civil service or the police service that will fire all quote-unquote Indians.
But it was the SSA. And you and I don't know. A lot of it is clouded in secrecy, shrouded in secrecy. And we don't know what the terms of employment and contracts are.
But that's a separate issue, Phillip.
Going back to
Reshmi.
Reshmi Ramnarai,
Yeah.
when she was appointed under Kamla Prasad-Bissessar and summarily dismissed when the brouhaha was made, that shows that appointments in the SSA, the SIA, the NSA are not the same as, say, the police service that is governed by a police service commission.
Well, the thing is that the SSA is a security agency. Who hires people in there?
Who?
No service commission does that.
No.
And that's the point.
That's the point.
So
You could be fired on a whim.
No PS does that. From what the Prime Minister said yesterday, and the two other people who spoke yesterday, because there were two media conferences yesterday, all aimed at rubbishing
Denny.
character
Of Denny.
a citizen of Trinidad and Tobago. That is the role of government now. So they spoke about Denny. They went back. The former,
Who was the second
National
press
Security.
conference? I only saw the Rowley press conference.
it was the previous security minister and the present one. And the previous one, who was there when Denny was there and who Denny accused of also giving him the instructions. He said, he went back so far as to say, yes, you know, we have questions about Denny when he did a course at John Donaldson. And we're not too sure, but it was not investigated. But I'm bringing it up.
No, Clyde, if Rhoda
In other words,
if
I
Rhoda
could come
Barrett-
in the public space and bring up anything
we're gonna
without
destroy your
a shred
character.
of proof.
But exactly,
And
if
it's
you-
okay.
But if you could release video from 2015 and you've not taken any legal action in those 4 years, between 2015 and now,
No, but who is Rhoda Barrett?
she's a voice of the PNM, but I'm just
No,
saying,
but she's not an official of government.
she's one of these leakers. She's one of these social media operatives, these fake news purveyors.
Yeah, I understand that, but
that
she's not-
Stuart Young and Faris
She's not
Azari wants
a
to talk
member
about.
of government. She's not an official of the society.
Okay, but I just want to focus.
So she's putting forward something that she could put forward.
I want
But
to
here
know
would
how does she come to have national
Well, she has to
security
explain that.
footage?
She has to explain that.
The crimes are getting to be a lot.
I don't know, Philip, if you had seen the judgment between in the High Court between Denny and the Minister of National Security.
No.
Somebody sent it to me, dated April the 16th, 2018. I haven't read the whole thing because it's 35 pages, but when we go right down to the end, it's kind of interesting on the final summation by the judge that he made some pronouncements accordingly that seems to put what Stuart Young and the Prime Minister said in the rubbish bin. And again, I don't know if these guys are paying attention to what is going on under their own doorsteps.
Well, they are, Robert, because today on the PNM Facebook page, they put out one of the orders in that matter, which removed the SSA as a defendant in the matter.
I hear you.
Right? So they were responding to the judgment
Yeah,
being
but Clyde, the
exposed.
PNM page is a political page.
Yes, it is.
It is not a government page.
And
We've blurred the lines.
And JTAM didn't understand that in 2010 or 2015 when they signed an MOU with the PNM and thought they could enforce it.
So we need to keep the two separate.
Right. But
What is politics and what is governance?
And the point I'm making is that very judgment says that the appointment of somebody as a quote-unquote interim director of the SSA was illegal.
The appointment itself was illegal?
Yes.
Who made the appointment?
Well, it's not even clear who made the appointment unless you go into the whole belly of the judgment, which I haven't been able to. But in terms of the conclusions, it says the appointment was not legal.
So, and I want to
Because there was somebody
It's
I
alleged,
wanna
for
bring Ian
for a
Griffith
period
into
of
the
about 2
conversation.
weeks.
it's alleged that the Minister of National Security at the time made interim appointment.
and we've said repeatedly that there is
However,
a separation
an
of
appointment
powers.
must be made by the President. That is why the judgment by Justice Mohammed ruled in favor of Denny.
So in a society that's 57 years old under all the constitutionality, we still don't understand due process.
Robert, we deliberately misrepresent due process. Not one institution of state, nothing could stand scrutiny. When Mark started a bus in Trinidad and Tobago, everybody know that the best way to cover your own self is to have dirt on other people. So it seems to be a race now to destroy Denny.
Well, and the point Robert just made, and it didn't start now. In the 1990s, while I was at the PSA, a minister of government, the Minister of Works at the time, Colm Imbert, said he appointed the transport commissioner. In fact, he walked into the yard on
Right road.
Wrights Road with the man and say, we have appointed him. And we took that matter to court, the PSA. And the court found that that appointment was illegal. If you recall, the FIU had a director who the court also ruled was illegally appointed by
West.
the cabinet. Yes.
That was David West.
Yes.
What a tangled web. The
So
current head of the Police Complaints Authority was removed as the head of the Financial Intelligence Unit because his appointment
Was
was
illegal.
illegal. His current appointment is embroiled in controversy that he was given that appointment in exchange to withhold or change a witness statement in another matter, Emailgate.
Yes. Well, again, as we say, this is purported. I mean, the funny part
Anand Ram Logan
Yeah.
was fired.
Yeah, because
The PNM and its operatives insisted that he be fired because of that accusation. The current commissioner of police is the only witness in that case.
I hear you. But you see, coming
He
back,
was the then Minister of National Security. He was fired as Minister of National Security because he wouldn't take guidance from the cabinet to say that he does not know what he knows.
All right,
Well-
but before we really kitchen sink all of these issues, to make an enchilada, your opening goes to point. This emanated on a particular political platform, and it's doing exactly what it's doing in the public domain at Plain Talk.
yes.
It's a distraction. It has distracted us to the point to invoke West and Griffith going way back. And none of those issues addresses the fundamental issues of the country that's going on. So we need to hear it, tell them, park it across there. This is the issue you want to discuss.
You're going to park up sedition.
I don't want to park sedition. The
We've parked
distraction of the
treason.
counterpoint. Somebody
We
said
see that's
something
it.
allegedly. The Prime Minister makes an opinion.
He never
Now
said. He
there
never
is-
said allegedly. He accused. He openly, publicly,
Well,
without
we-
any
No.
any
I think
parliamentary
this
privilege.
panel is going to err on the side of allegedly in terms of what is in the public domain. It's a he say. There is apparently, then he's saying, give me 48 hours, I'm going to bring proof. So we are actually engaged in a conversation right now because something was said on a political platform, a UNC platform.
No,
The Prime Minister responds to it by addressing the
Okay, but you
nation.
see-
And then the person
You're
who
right.
made
But
the allegation,
with
the
respect-
person who made the allegation says, I'll be back in 48 hours.
Yeah, but
How do we...
I know Clyde is going to make the same point. I'm
How
gonna
do
make.
we get involved in a conversation to that extent, with
Okay.
that depth,
All right.
when there is still rolling disclosure taking place and opining on it? I think we need to be
Right.
careful.
But with
Just
respect,
acknowledge-
let me make this point. The Prime Minister and two other ministers of government held two press conferences
Initiated
yesterday
the conversation.
attacking an individual's character, going back to some exam he wrote, which they claimed it was
It
never
no-
investigated,
stealing some
and making
equipment
attacks
from
on
the
his
airport,
character.
right.
No,
But
I'm not
we-
talking about
They
the
also,
airport.
but stealing the equipment from the airport wasn't the whole sum total of what they
Right.
said. They said he removed that equipment to facilitate another crime.
No, I didn't hear of that. I listened to the two press conferences, and I'm saying, here's the government of Trinidad and Tobago deliberately setting out to attack a citizen's character
The
based
two-
on
the-
something
the-
he said.
The two press conferences
Okay?
by the former.
No, let
and
me
the
just make this
current
point, because
Minister
it's
of
not the
National
first
Security.
time.
Let me make his point.
There was a young man who appeared on a UNC platform before, and he said certain things. The Minister of National Security, the same one who spoke yesterday, Stuart Young, also came to the public via the media and attacked that young man by exposing his police record. This is not the first time.
This will not.
And this is a serious thing. On the eve of our independence, we have the government of Trinidad and Tobago attacking the character of citizens because of something they said on a political
What is
platform.
holding this government up still? Clyde,
A
What-
lack of backbone of a society
why
is
is
holding this
why
government
is
up.
Keith Rowley still in office?
Because the people want it so. You have to appreciate that we are not Hong Kong. People in
1.2 million people are in the street.
correct, and continuously for the last 7 weeks. The problem is that we have to reflect on Keith Rowley as having to have known, and here is what this judgment said since 18. The SSA Act contemplates that the responsibilities of the director can only be handed over to another person who is appointed director or acting director. The minister failed to comply with his duty under the SSA Act by removing the duties and associated responsibility from the former director of the SSA and bestowing it on a person who was not appointed by the president as a director of the SSA. The minister's directive was therefore illegal and ultra vires. And that closes the case on this, because Keith Rowley, as the prime minister of this country, who is leading and directing this country, cannot go, even if it is to interfere with a person or character assassinate them. He must know that this is public document. It errs just like he had erred when I spoke with him about the appointment of Wendell Motley. And he told me, tear up the paper, throw it away, because that ain't right. And then he had to come back and apologize. This, as I agree with Ian, who is saying this is just a misdirect. It is to take the people's issues of the current situation of the problem in Trinidad and Tobago, which is where you started.
Okay, but where's the problem?
The problem is in the whole
The reason I went
the whole criminal situation.
Okay, but
in
the reason
society.
I went to the web, the reason I went to West, Ram Logan, Gary Griffith, and all of that, is at some point you have to realize all of these issues, be they distraction or not, are very serious issues in and of themselves.
But not in the minds of the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago.
If you are running this country based on appointments ratified by judgments in a court of law, we lost at sea. We don't even have systems in place in Trinidad and Tobago where senior national security appointments can be made transparently, publicly verified, ratified in the full glare of public disclosure in the parliament. We don't even have that.
Philip, you have to recognize, and I agree with Ian again, we talking about something that no matter how long you and I and the rest of the panelists around this table speak, will have no influence in the change. Unless the people of Trinidad and Tobago does not start to stand up for what is right, we will forever be dealing with what is wrong. And it starts with us trying to bring information to the population that will urge them to start to use common sense or logic. Trinidad and Tobago's population is not logical, excuse me. They are operating in a kind of off-the-cuff situation. Something happened today, like what happened here now. Prime Minister get up yesterday and talk, and everybody get involved in talking.
Nobody could say you're wrong, and nobody could say Ian was wrong. Clyde, I just want to say this.
Yeah.
But the point I'm trying to make is this. When Gary Griffith closed email gate, he said, I closed the gate. I said, the moment you close email gate, you open treason gate. Because you cannot pretend.
Okay.
The same email gate accused Gary Griffith of plotting to murder.
Right.
Kate Rowley has never retracted that.
He never accepted that he had two sons too. So what's the problem?
I understand that, but I'm saying to you, he's never retracted that. And we live in a country, we keep shoving all these things under the rug. We live in a country where you have a commissioner of police, and I have never stopped saying this. So I sat in the parliament when his appointment was made. You have a commissioner of police that the prime minister accused of plotting to murder a journalist.
How does that work?
No, but you see,
How does that really
the
work?
point is, Philip, you said it's not logic. That's not the problem. The question is we have never, as a society, from 1962, established principles.
And again, you're on the right
that's
point.
So let me just make the point here, please. When the Prime Minister spoke yesterday, he went and exposed files that are labeled secret, which are really personnel files of the SSC.
And he said he was doing it knowing it
I
was
said
wrong.
on Facebook, how could a politician use the personnel files of a person to attack him in the public?
To discredit
And you know
him.
there's a bunch of PNM trolls whose attack on me since yesterday, their latest, is that personnel files are public information.
Like,
yeah.
the
No.
people who put those
If that
files in
is so,
Kate Rowley's
how come
hands
several public employees have to use the FOI
to get that
to
information.
get information on their own files, but the Prime Minister could use it? That
Clyde,
is wrong.
Clyde,
That is
every
it's totally
person-
unprincipled to be done.
Every person who put national security files in the Prime Minister's hands to be used for political purposes have they themselves committed crimes. The Prime Minister cannot defend himself in the public space by discrediting the person accusing him. He can sue him for defamation. He can take it to the courts. He cannot use the higher public office that he holds to damage the character of the witness bringing that information.
And that is what I'm saying is, in principle, it is wrong for any public official to use their office to attack the character of a citizen. It is wrong. If they did it in Parliament, The parliament allows them to do it, and the citizens could then go and complain to the parliament, and they could record a complaint in Hansard. That's what we have as parliamentary procedure. But when you do it in a media conference, like happened, you remember with Basdev Pandey and Gordon? He said it in a place that was not privileged, and he was sued. So right now, Mr. Denny, he has his options to
Of
deal with a
course.
lot of things. But the issue is
What
not...
do you mean by he has his options?
If
Denny
he
could now
himself
sue
is
the
now
Prime Minister
being
for stuff
defamed by the
leaking.
Prime Minister, he can do
Of
as
course.
well as two other ministers yesterday. The point I'm making is, he has those options to
That
choose.
happened on the same
But
day.
for the public of Trinidad and Tobago, on the question of governance, after 57 years of independence, if we are sitting and accepting that the Prime Minister, the head of the executive, can attack you or anybody else around this table, attack our characters because of something we said, criticizing his government,
Clyde, I want to tell you something.
then we are lost in terms of
I wa-
democracy
and I
in
wanna
this-
say- and I
in
wanna-
this country.
And we definitely, because this is supposed to be a Republican nation ruled by law, and that's not what we're getting. That's not what's happening. Does anybody around this table trust this government?
I don't think it's about trusting the government. The government is one arm.
He acknowledged that there is an absence of real systems holding this country up. The day the PNM and the UNC really go to war, the day they really start to bat file for file, there is nothing will be left standing. All of it. All of the secret deals. When the Anand Ramlogan David West deal was made public, Trinidad and Tobago recoiled. When Keith Rowley read Email Gate, and in Email Gate there are allegations that the Prime Minister at the time was going to use the Chief Justice to have the DPP elevated to get him out of the way. That's how politics is played in Trinidad and Tobago. We've blurred the lines. We've thrown ethics out the window a long time ago. If you all agree that nothing of value holds this country up, and I ask you if you trust the government, because somebody has to come into that space, Robert. If we don't deal with it from this position and put actual systems in place, Trinidad is going to end up in a civil war.
Well, I do not believe that Trinidad and Tobago will ever end up in a civil war. That is not in the interest of no
When
one.
the money runs out,
Yeah.
if a budget can pass in Trinidad and Tobago, and the public service, the bloated public service cannot be paid, what you think gonna
No, but
happen?
back up. That will never happen. A budget in Trinidad and Tobago based on the pass-the-post system will always pass. Even if there is disagreement. Whoever controls the parliament has the say. There is no role for opposition in budgetary decisions. And it will never happen until we get constitutionality reform, where we have maybe proportional representation or a broader aspect of the society participating in the decision-making processes of the country, and we move away from the administration and the lawmakers to be two different people. If we cannot separate the powers between the people who make the laws and the people who enforce the laws, we'll always be where we are. And Trinidad and Tobago, after 57 years, have continued to play its role in the same way. The world is changing. Significant countries in Europe have changed. They're no longer operating under this pass-the-post system.
China is the most draconian country in the world right now. And even China can't stop the flow of information from Hong Kong. You living in Trinidad, where a conglomerate owner would like to tax Facebook and shut down social media because
But the good part about-
his media empire lost 11
Yeah,
million.
but the good part about it is he don't have the power to do that.
But you have a government that willfully, in the face of global retail collapse, taxed online purchases.
You see, again,
So when you say-
we're moving too far off
No, but
all
when
the
you say,
things.
no, but when you say, because I want to keep bringing it back to the actions of government and use that, I still want to ask you, if there is any real systems in place in this country, regardless of whether it is distraction or not, what Denny said suggests the Prime Minister is guilty of sedition.
And therefore, the only person who could take the action for the country to benefit is Denny. Denny must now be able to say, this cannot work. The same thing Clyde is saying on that side here, what the time has come for me to stop this. And if he's serious, have evidential proof and have the fact, he must now file an action against the Prime Minister for defamation.
Was it DPP's
And
role here?
DPP had nothing to do with defamation rules.
I
Not-
want
that
to
is not a criminal
interject
matter.
here because to me this is where people in my generation lose complete interest in politics because I'm listening to all of the positions being put forward, and somebody my age in my right thinking is asking the question, okay, so we're seeing all of this, we're seeing where the Prime Minister is attacking a man's character for saying something that may or may not be true.
Right.
However, I'm asking, and I want to know a simple question: what is being done, and can anything be done? You're seeing publicly.
Change.
Two
We need
things.
change.
two-
Yeah,
Massive
we
change.
see-
We need massive
do,
change.
But at the
Clyde agrees with
and
us.
this is where- and this is where I disagree
in an
with
immediate
Ian.
sense, two things can happen. One, the man himself has to defend
Of
himself.
course.
And two, the society has to defend the
Yeah,
man.
but we
Correct.
see
So-
how this has played out in the
so the-
public, and the situation that you brought up with Gary Griffith is perfect. We see how it turns into a he said, she said, bacchanal, and then in the end, what happens?
I would tell you this much, Felicia. If I had known where we were going with this discussion, I'd walk with some scripted information from Gary Griffith, because Gary Griffith has to carry a load of responsibility for not moving Trinidad and Tobago forward.
In
In
which way?
terms of what?
In terms of enforcing law, you cannot come, as I said publicly, Gary Griffith is aware because I've sent him information via his WhatsApp, telling him this is a police officer who is now on sick leave and he walking, but he not supposed to walk. Gary Griffith talks about $50 million in money spent on police officers, but he has fired nobody to date. 1 year after the fact, Gary Griffith has not taken any action against errant. It got to start. If the politicians are not prepared to start it, then the system must start on its own. Because he talk about 93, Section 93 of the police, new police rules, and that talks about testing. But we have over 2,000 or 3,000 young police officers that have joined in the last time, from the time that act came into power, and we don't know what has happened to those police. Why haven't we known what happened to those 2,000 police with regards to the testing? He should have been able, he tell us the Southwestern Division, he do the full tests on them, but he didn't tell us how many pass and how many fail.
I understand what you're saying. Aaron,
Society
but-
needs
but
to be
I
kept
don't-
informed.
Absolutely, but what Felicia is asking, and is a very pertinent point, is to the younger generation, who all of us who are in politics, we keep saying that a change is going to come when we get the young people passionate about politics again and get them into the national conversation. Looking on at a system so badly broken, who wants to run into that fire?
Well, then it will stay the same way,
Who
Philip.
wants to run into? No, I'm just saying.
No,
To the-
you see, Philip, you mentioned the question of Hong Kong. There's the question of Sudan. There are many examples.
Of course.
And it is young people who have risen up to say, we demand an end to this.
Yes.
So the question here is not that young people are outside or they're not understanding.
No,
The
we
fact is
understand
that
perfectly.
no, you don't understand perfectly, because since 1962 we have never set
Nobody
this society
understands
on the
perfectly.
basis of what are principles and to be operated on and how are they to be defended. What we have now is not the rule of law, you know. We have the law of rule.
Mob rule.
Of rule, not mob. It is the rule of a monarch.
But Clyde, when I say
That
rule
elected
of a
monarch, Clyde,
monarch.
is a mob. The PNM beats its mob into a frenzy. What has Keith Rowley calling a series of press conferences is the UNC used the PNM playbook. The PNM has been talking race for the last 3 months.
They've
The
both
UNC
been.
brought
They've
Benny.
both been.
Okay, and I give you that. But I am saying to you, allegation is different to accusation.
Yes, but the
Kamala
issue,
could stand up on a platform and say that she knows of a SIA operative who was given an instruction. That is different to the operative himself without immunity, without cover of
Yeah,
privilege.
but Philip, it comes back to the basic. Unless that man does not follow through and take the necessary action, the same thing Felicia is talking about will continue, because society, Trinidad and Tobago, will say,
But
there's
aren't
another
we at a
fast.
place now where we could say, we watched a chief magistrate accuse a chief justice, go through all of the loops that it took to get all the money it cost this nation, all the shock, all the awe, to finally get the Chief Justice before a court, before the Chief Magistrate declined to give evidence? Shouldn't he have been charged? Shouldn't there have been a system that demanded that before you try to send police to kick down the door of the Chief Justice, that there is something of substance, that even if Sherman McNichols had dropped dead, you could have continued the prosecution? It cannot be so easy to besmirch and damage names and characters. And you talking about somebody, I didn't know who Denny was. Prior to Denny climbing on the platform,
I didn't know him either.
I didn't know who he was. But now I know this is a person that has some information. The rest of the people who have information,
Okay.
they are watching.
So Philip,
I just want to say this.
Yeah.
They are watching. We need to be very careful what happens now. Denny, as you said, and you rightfully said, the people of Trinidad have a responsibility to protect Denny.
Yes.
Until we find that if he's a liar, we have a responsibility to stand with him. Because the Prime Minister has power.
Yeah.
Denny has no power.
but he cannot. Nobody can stand with him if he doesn't take an action.
Absolutely, but
So everything that is happening here.
Wouldn't you know, because I want to tell you something here, Robert. I have seen some things done to me by state agencies in the past 2.5 years that have me stunned and in shock. And I thought that I was aware. I thought that I was very aware. And I still can't believe actions being done in agencies that you and I thought were sacrosanct and near to God, that put on robes and swear oaths to defend without fear or favor, malice or ill will, and how easily all of that goes out the window. And the fact that Denny had to go on a UNC platform, because so many people come to me with so much information and there is nowhere for them to turn, because you don't know the political leaning of the office holders who are the ones to take action.
Let us accept that there are issues in regards to that loyalty to a political party, whether it is one or the other, when the institutions are developed. Let us say that the present party have more institutional capacity of people that they could clone or advantage because of the number of years they've been around, and therefore they have an affinity. But let us look at another issue that is almost similar in nature with the Chief Justice and Julian John. Now, there's an article that was published a year ago where he said that he would take the opportunity to look at issues of people who are needy and make a recommendation to those who are in charge to get homes for them. And the two people who he made a recommendation for, out of which we don't know the rest, and Julian John knows it because he said he wrote her and he found the letter. And to date, Julian John, just like Denny, has not come forward and spoken the truth to this country.
Yeah, but you need people in public office that could get past personalities. Julian John shouldn't be the one to say. Denny shouldn't be the final repository of that information. Right now, the Commissioner of Police should be interviewing him.
For
You are
what?
making
For
an
what?
accusation of sedition.
No. You know, Philip has used this accusation of sedition, and he has used
That's
the
what
accusation
he
of,
said.
Yes, I hear. Interviewing who? Rowley?
He should be interviewing Denny.
But Denny really is defamation more than anything else here first.
No.
The lines between sedition.
Defamation is a civil matter.
Right.
Sedition is a criminal
Yes,
matter.
but I am saying at this stage, and I don't know if the rest of
There
panelists agree,
is-
this is borderline maybe, and it's more leaning towards defamation
Right.
because you have a man get up in public and say, you do this, you do that, you do this,
You
you do
trying to
that.
tell me that this accusation is less than what took Satmaraj before the courts, or is threatening to take Satmaraj before the courts? Satmaraj's ridiculous statements, be them as they may, are not as seditious as this. And I'm saying to you that a man has made a statement that accuses a sitting prime minister of a serious criminal offense. The Commissioner of Police needs to be involved in that conversation.
Philip, the Commissioner of Police, not getting involved
If I
in
just interject, it may be better for an attorney, if present, to opine on the difference between sedition and defamation, because none of us are attorneys.
Yes.
Well, I am. So let me
Well,
just make
Let the
the
attorney
point.
speak.
If you or I make a statement about anybody that is false and it affects their character
Right.
and their reputation, they can sue for defamation.
So
Okay.
then Danny should
Okay.
be suing the Prime Minister.
And equally
Wait,
the
what-
Prime Minister could sue
The Prime
him.
Minister could sue Danny. That's the point.
So,
the Prime Minister's
but the
first
other
press
point is
conference
that
should
if-
have been a lawsuit.
If I make a point attacking a whole segment of the society in order to create division in the society,
Right,
that
okay.
is sedition.
All right.
That is the basis on which Sat Maharaj's TV studio and his radio studio was
raided,
searched by the
was raided.
police because he said something about Tobagonians,
Black Tobagonians.
right? So we don't know publicly, and this is something that has creeped into the practice of the police. It happened with Marlene MacDonald. It happened with Anna Ramlogadende. It's happening with Watson Duke. What is being arrested for questioning to further an investigation? What is that?
I hear you.
You're not arrested to be charged, you know.
Yeah.
You're arrested to
for
be to
questioning.
further an investigation.
Yeah.
In Marlene MacDonald's case, a 6-year investigation. So the police have to arrest you to finish a 6-year investigation? I don't think
And
so.
Clyde, and that is again.
So what I'm saying is, Philip, when I say we are not dealing with the rule of law, we are dealing with the law of
No, I
rule.
get it, I get
What
it.
we are dealing with is a society in which, for 57 years, we have built no institution worth its name. Because what we are operating is the rule
Power
of
of
the
the boss.
monarch
Yeah.
who is directing what is to happen, how.
Put in power and upheld by a mob.
And the problem is that for 57 years, we did not deal with this question.
With the institution.
And we have to deal with it
And I
if we are to
agree.
go forward
Yeah.
as a society.
But how do you go forward as a society if you've broken the society into two mobs based on race? You form a political party and you go on the media and the media is asking you, who's your mob? Who's your mob? Because when they ask you, who's your base?
No, when the media.
When the
are
media asking,
playing
no,
the game.
no, but whether they play a game or not.
You see,
This is-
there's
whether
a
they-
mob that is not in those two mobs. You go back, 1971, election boycott. The PNM became the government with how much percent?
100.
33%.
Yeah,
33.
yeah, percent, all the seats.
Boss,
So
the
let's
Dego-
assume-
the Dego Martin Regional Corporation
Let's assume
voted into
all,
office on
all
17%
the
of the
PNM supporters
vote.
vote for all
That-
the
that is-
candidates.
that is
All
the-
they mustered was 33%.
This is not a democracy. If you could convene a Dego Martin, the Regional Corporation, the whole Municipal Corporation Act need to be scrapped. But that Dego Martin Regional Corporation is 17% of the
So-
vote.
Well,
Philip,
so that's the point I'm making.
Yeah,
so we have never established a democracy in Trinidad and
Right.
Tobago.
And okay, so
Right?
let's say yes.
So-
and that's a good point to say. But I'm saying to you, if that is the point we start at, I'm not even caring why, you know. I care about how do we fix that now.
We
You
have to
have to-
establish it.
Well, no, I disagree with my friend. I mean, the reality is that how we have to start it is we have to get the country's people to start to understand logic.
How do we do that?
Exactly what we're doing here
Ian
now.
Griffith, I met Ian Griffith fighting for a school that had a unique problem of facing off against the PNM and the UNC.
And that goes back to what? That goes back to the point of institutional structures. If the structure was right, it would have automatically taken care of itself. But the structures are not right. The structures are imposed upon by the boss. The boss call and tell the structure what to do, and the structure has to do it.
Correct.
So the problem is with the structure. The civil service
How do
of
we
this
fix
country.
that?
We had to energize the civil service to stand up. The civil service had to start to make the move. All the PSs in the country had to understand they're more important than the Prime Minister.
Well, as I pointed out, Robert, yesterday on a radio station, when we walk into our ministry these days, we don't meet civil servants, you know. We meet people on contract employee.
Correct.
Who ministers feel they hire and fire.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right? The civil servants are about 25% at best in our ministry right now. The people are appointed
Who sits-
according to the Constitution in a public office
operates-
by a commission,
Who
a
operates
service
these
commission.
special purpose companies?
The
Who
cabinet.
operates-
And right now, the cabinet
No,
has
the
even-
employees of special purpose companies are not public servants.
No, they're not.
They are contract workers.
But who is
So
running it
Patrick
is the
Manning,
cabinet.
No problem. And yes, Patrick Manning created the special purpose companies, Sport TT, UDCOT,
All
EFCL,
of them.
EMBD, all of them. As an end run, we actually have a second government running, you know.
Yeah.
That is a second, because the public service is still running. But the decisions and the operations, the government is giving its budget allocation to special purpose companies that answerable to nobody. When Emil Elias picked
The-
up,
the point I'm
when
making,
Emil
Philip-
Elias picked up money from TSTT and bought Massey Communications, he said he answers to nobody.
Right.
And you
And,
see-
and within the ministries, I'm saying, because of contract employment, which started under the NAR, you have 75% of the people sitting in a ministry are not civil servants. They're not under a service commission. They're under a PS and a minister.
Well,
And that is a deliberate thing
Clyde,
that ministers
we
have
had a
done.
meeting in here. We had a meeting in here with union members who were standing before specific ministers and arguing with them. But one of the ministers was also their lawyer. You understand what I just said?
Mhm.
That is
It's a
himself
nonsense.
to himself. The
Of
union
course.
don't even have a voice. That's himself to himself. And the entire thing, the conversation that has to happen in Trinidad and Tobago
What is TT Post? What is RHA? What is this thing they're trying to put in place, Revenue Authority? All of these things, including the people in the airport who they moved, they take all these chunks of the civil service and move it out under these agencies. All right? They try
And we wait on the trade unions. We wait on labor to stand up. The whole country stood back and waited on Ansel Roger and the OWTU to stand up to the government and what they were doing to Petrotrin. Because Trinidad and Tobago didn't know who we could turn to.
Again, Philip, become full 360. The men who are the ones responsible that these union members have selected do not carry the competence in order to present the facts to the country. If you are the union leader of the OWTU and the government makes a decision to shut it down, you should have been intelligent enough to use proper resources to paint the picture to show why it should not be shut down. To date, that has not been done by the union. All the union went and do was browbeat,
Well,
sit down and talk to the prime minister, work out and say, well, okay, we're going to do A and B, but we have seen no empirical information
But
to
the
support.
Minister of Energy appointed NIPDEC of all companies to find the security agency to replace Petrotrin Security for the new arrangement.
Philip,
Oh, I just say,
yeah, no
I
disrespect.
just said-
That is a little salt down in the bottom here.
No.
The bigger
But that
issue.
can be solved because that's outside of NIPDEC's remit, first of all. And secondly, NIPDEC does not have the authority to grant sole select contracts for state enterprises.
And here's the problem. Citizen TNT, now if they are aware and you could present that fact empirically, not just with you saying it, supported by the evidential proof, according to the rules of NIPDEC, according to the bylaws of NIPDEC, according to all the institutional fact. We need to start to present those things to people because people are still disengaged with fact. They are still on the flowers, the sweet talk. We have to move away from that. All of these special purpose companies, up to today, they are not filing their annual returns and they are not filing their balance sheets. But nobody has written to the chairman of the committee, of the Joint Select Committee of Finance, telling them what is going on. No financial person in the country has gotten up. KPMG,
Those are private
whoever.
companies.
All of those
But
has
those are
not,
private companies.
that's not the point.
You are asking-
there is a procedural way, and you cannot keep things outstanding in infinity if it is government
But the
jurisdiction.
THA is proving you wrong.
And we know that, but that is because the man who's sitting at the top has failed to engage, and we understand that.
Robert, let me just give you an example. When the RHAs were created
Yeah.
in 1986 by an act of parliament, you were taking a third of the civil service and moving it out from under a service commission. The government then said, how can we discipline them people in the RHAs? Because they become workers under the IRA, they're no longer civil servants. You know what the government did? They went and amended the Constitution of Trinidad and Tobago to say that the Public Service Commission could discipline somebody who is a worker in an RHA. A fellow named Lala, who was the chairman of the commission. And in those days, we as the PSA, we used to meet with the Service Commission on a regular basis, along with the CPO and others. But not just to talk about terms of employment, to talk about the service. And the chairman of that commission, Mr. Lala, who was also chairman of the Police Service Commission at the time, he said the government went and changed the constitution and tried to get me to do something that is not my remit. I'm not doing it. And for 2 years, that prevented the government from moving ahead with pushing people out of the service into the RHAs. There was a member of an institution who understood the role of his institution and carried it out. There are not many institutions in this country.
Wait. So you're saying the best example of us standing up to the madness of government is bureaucratic gridlock? That's what you just said. Eh? I'm not knocking you for it. But I'm just saying, the best response was that Lala refused. And now, in a country where the two organizations don't exist at the same level, they're functionally different, that one, a public service commission, should not be dealing with a regional health authority of any kind.
The employees, they can't. They're not civil servants.
There is no organization of government or state in Trinidad and Tobago that has oversight over all of that could have come and made sense of it.
Exactly.
Unless we could have found a way.
The one organization that's supposed to is called the Parliament.
That's the point. And that's the point. We keep electing two people who do not understand the role of Parliament. Vernon de Lima was the first person I heard say, untie the hands of MPs, remove the whip, let the Parliament function. The Parliament doesn't function. The Parliament goes in there. I remember the first couple years of the People's Partnership government, Glenn Ramadas Singh and Stacey Rupnarine, they were reading what they were handed. They wasn't giving you their opinion. They were representing their constituents. Our Parliament, the first past the post, we voting for a Prime Minister and friends based on who gets the most number of votes. It is a silly system that gives representation to no one.
And that was one of the points I was making in the earlier part of the discussion. That Trinidad and Tobago will not move from where it is unless society Trinidad and Tobago understands that from here on in is more down than up.
Ian, Robert is calling for a mass awakening. You have faith in that?
It is necessary.
Robert is calling for an overnight conversion on a national level where we all see ourselves beyond our race, country first. You think that's happening without some sort of flash, some sort of fire?
No, I don't. Normally you quote the number of billions spent by the various governments over a number of years. And I think if you look at the budget spent with regard to education, the quantum of money spent, it's deliberately designed to create the populace that Robert is referring to that do not think through things and create the base or the mob that ensures this group or that group gets into power. And then we begin throwing on terms which I think we need to actually unravel because we misunderstand them because we think we do. Parliament. What does it really mean? So all of us have an assumption and we say, okay, that's the highest court. And we throw another word, democracy. So we all have a sense of democracy and we run with it. So let's unravel, let's take democracy. Do we have a democracy in Trinidad and Tobago? You drill down into that will produce a lot of information. You drill down into the function of Parliament, how you get there, how you function, the role of cabinet, a rubber stamp for Parliament, the whip, how it's construed, the opposition, what's their real role and function? They don't seem to have a role and function as to lay weight to become in power. And when you break up those things and you drill down into it, I think you get a conversation where people can say, listen, I'm beginning to see a conversation taking place where they're getting to the heart of the matter. The institutions that we keep referring to, another word we keep using, institutions, it means different things to different people.
Yeah.
Just like fruitcake, it means different things to different people because your grandma's a secret recipe. I get mine some kiss. We all think we're tasting fruitcake.
Right.
Institutions, were they really designed to deliver what they're delivering, or were they deliberately designed to do exactly what they're doing? And
So
if
then
we
this is the problem.
understand that, if we understand that institutions that we're talking about that are parallel, sub-parallel workarounds, we begin to understand that, listen, we are trying to fix a problem, looking at the institutions that they exist, but not first looking at the fact that they weren't designed to do what we think they're doing, and then we try to fix it. It's not understanding the problem.
And
If you're going to go for chemo, you must make sure you have cancer.
Absolutely. You don't want to move
yes,
above.
they should.
Or the
But
common cold. But the point you're making, and I wanted to show you, the thing that I pulled up here to give to him is that this then is the problem.
Well, we know
Let-
that's the
let-
problem.
let me-
That-
This is the problem.
let me
The
take
Constitution of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago that started, whereas the people, I want to find the exact comment, whereas
If we were doing therapy, all of us here, for some sort of issues, you know what you call that? That's an enabling document.
the Constitution of the Republic.
Yes.
So
it
who is
enables
the,
any and everyone to go to that document and divine and opine on anything and confuse everybody simultaneously.
let
And
me
that
let
is
me-
why it's not going to be amended, because the day you straighten that out,
Is the day we start seeing the
I
country
want
moving in
to- I
that
want to
so
direction.
connect
nobody
that.
wants to correct that document.
whereas
I want to
I
connect
just want to say
that
this.
with
Whereas it starts, whereas the people of Trinidad and Tobago. Who is that?
right.
Who is that?
All right.
You
With
and
the
I.
people of Trinidad and Tobago.
Whereas the people of Trinidad and Tobago, everything that is this constitution,
1.3 million people who
priest-
make up the body politic of Trinidad
priest,
and Tobago.
president, prime minister, police, all of them answer to the people ostensibly. Is this document, you're a lawyer, is this document functional? This is our supreme law.
Law.
Is it functional?
And it is functional in the way that Ian
was
just
set up.
described.
Right.
Functionally
The question is
dysfunctional?
what
Exactly.
what were the institutions created in that document? What were they set up for?
And you see,
And let me just make this point.
That's the point.
Because we are
I want
we
an
are-
answer to that question. I don't just want
we
to be
are-
a point.
we are 3
You
days-
said what they were set up for. What?
No,
To
it's a
end-
rhetorical question.
let me just answer
You
the
ask a
question this
rhetorical
way.
question.
In
There's a
1962,
duplicitous. What you think it was set up for, what it's actually intended to do. We keep focusing on what we
1962.
think it's supposed to do.
in 1962, when that document came into being, two things happened in Trinidad and Tobago. There was the PNM, and there was an organization called Pegasus, which has disappeared from our collective memory because it has been hidden. It is an organization that was founded by Geddes Granger. He was at that time an employee of the Ministry of Finance. That organization created a document called Project Independence. And in that document, they spoke about, on the question of politics, that representatives have to be mandated to meet with their electors every so often
That was
so
a-
that they can actually present.
So that was a different constitution that made the parliament functional. Where is that document?
No, there's a. I'm saying it is called Project Independence. I have a copy of it and I'm publishing it soon.
So-
What I'm saying is that came from the people. That came from people other than the PNM. The
Yeah.
PNM had a different issue. So in 1962, rather than the people of Trinidad and Tobago being able to settle what it is we want Trinidad and Tobago to be and what we need to run it, the PNM said we alone could decide that. That is what happened. The
Well,
withdrawal of
I don't want to lose, you know what I'm saying? I don't want to lose the enthusiasm of the viewers. If we go too detailed into those things, people tune out because it starts to feel like you're standing in front of a tsunami of wrong. Trinidad and Tobago is getting to the point where shock doctrine that has been used for so long to facilitate so much of this wrongdoing, what he said, because I've said 1962, when they lowered the Union Jack and raised the red, white, and black, nothing changed except massa. Nothing else changed.
Because-
all that was going on in the back rooms, Clyde,
massa-
Weatherhead.
Because the massa who came in simply maintained
Embrace
what was
the
existing.
status quo.
And I'm saying
what was
there,
going
was
on
a,
in the
there was a
What?
challenge to that by the people in the form of Pegasus, and the massa suppressed it. At this time, because we were discussing the question of what is to be done at this stage. And
Like
just as the
who
people
then-
stood up then, and the people stood up in 1970, in 2019, unless the people stand up and say,
back to the point.
But-
we
okay.
are going to make the change,
Who makes
then
up?
it is
Okay,
not
so I want to
done.
ask you this,
Mhm.
because I want Trinidad and Tobago to know this. If the backroom boys that were operating the nation state in 1962 was the same people August 30th, September 2nd, who is Massa?
Who is Master?
You see, Philip, I don't want. I don't
You
wanna-
can't duck that question.
No, I
Because- and
have
as-
to sidestep that
No,
question
but
because
let me
I
just
think
put it on the
it's-
table because I want and you can jump in that.
Respond.
You can jump in that because I want people to stop and think. Somebody or some group in Trinidad and Tobago, Clyde Weatherhead, were you anywhere in government when Justice Scott did the commission of inquiry into the drug report?
No.
We live in a country where a properly constituted commission of inquiry's judgment could have been swept away. And I just want to know, because you can't fight this without knowing the agenda of who you're fighting. Felicia wanted to say something.
No, well, you asked the question, who is Massa? And in my opinion, it's everybody who's benefiting from the systems being as broken as they
Those
are.
are upholders. Those are enablers. Massa. There is a group. There are people in Trinidad and
It's
Tobago.
what we call
They-
nowadays the 1%.
Well,
I don't
aren't
think
those
it's-
the ones benefiting.
I don't
though?
think it's just the 1%. I think that there is more. I think that there is deeper, and I think that we have to have that conversation. But Robert, say you want to sidestep it, sidestep away.
Listen to me. 1962, I'm a young guy, so I haven't read anything at that stage of my life. I'm following from the doctrine of the seniors. When the Trinidad and Tobago independence took place, it was set in the background that we are a democratic society, every creed and race find an equal place. That was the preface. That was the whole long and short of the thing. At that time, the society was less educated than we are today. And Eric Williams, in his wisdom, decided, and this is what spoiled everything in this country, and Clyde might not agree with me, but all of these service commissions they put in there without the teeth to take action or have the mandates to
That,
make the things happen.
but these things were in place before independence.
No.
A lot of this bureaucracy that just continued.
Yeah.
A lot of our law just continued.
Okay, let's accept that. The reality is that in order to keep the systems running, Police Service Commission, Teaching Service Commission, Prison Service
Was that a
Commission.
deal that Eric Williams made?
It was not a deal.
That there would be no substantive change because somebody had to be the architect. Eric Williams was a historian.
No, it is an architect of putting it together, most likely based on the way it was structured to keep the thing where it is. My point to you is that those structures.
Ian just gave me a knowing nod. What does that mean?
It's 100% correct. He's correct.
That is where the problem is in
Okay,
Trinidad
but
and Tobago. But hold on, Philip. We have to face this now.
Talk away.
We have a situation where on 3 specific times in this country, and you ask who is Massa, so look who is Massa now. Eric Williams, 36-0. Arthur Napoleon Robinson, 33-3. Kamla Prasad Bisesa, 29-12. On all 3 occasions, we could have made changes.
All 3 occasions.
So Massa is the Prime Minister. At the end of the day, whoever run this country...
Wait a minute. I want to show you why you're wrong.
No, I'm not wrong.
By saying that the Prime Minister, Robert, I want to ask you a question.
Uh-huh.
Who owns the pitch lake of Trinidad and Tobago?
The people of Trinidad and Tobago, but...
Where in any document have you seen?
Philip, that is a question that has to be made public by an opposition that is sitting in the parliament that has the due course of acting
So you see
in
what
the
I'm saying?
parliament.
You understand what I'm saying? So you say
So
somebody else.
Massa,
So but there should be somebody that I could go to. I called the
Until
betrayal. And I
such-
use that as an example.
yeah, but you're making this as if though you believe that by us talking now, this thing will just flip the script
Not
and
at all.
tomorrow morning we'll see it
Not
happen.
at all. But what I believe is this. that a lot of people, and a lot of times you talk, I talk, Clyde talk, Ian talks, and I know that a lot of the work the Progressive Empowerment Party is doing, people say, because he was correct, people say, you know, I didn't know this. Somebody in our party, a guy by the name of Challoner Birchwood, coined to me the phrase that Trinidad is a plantation. It's not a democracy. It's a plantation. Discipline, tolerance, and production are watchwords
Of a factory.
of a factory. This is not a real country. Robert Amar, you could say whatever you want. You can have an extra hour. I wanna put this in the national record. I have said for years, this is not a real country. Pushing to get a response. We understand now that there are other people, because you've just shown that we've had 3 occasions when prime ministers with absolute power over the constitution could have fixed it
Of course. Including all the service commissions.
and chose not to.
And chose not to. So we come
Why are laws passed?
No.
Why do we spend millions of dollars, Clyde, and do all of the debating and all of the back and forth to finally get a law, but don't pass it, don't send it, don't send it to the president? Like the Children's Bill, the Dangerous Dog Act, the antitrust legislation, all of these things that have been done, dealt with. Why do we do that?
Because
Again,
you have the law of rule. That's what I'm saying, Philip. The point is, in 1962, we essentially continued a form of governance that suited the colonial master. That was who Massa was. Massa has not changed very much, except that we have switched the outside
So
aspect of
Saturday
Massa.
we're celebrating the anniversary of a fast.
Yes. And until we do the things as
Clyde, Weatherhead, you just said yes.
I've been saying it since 1970. I've been
We're
saying it.
celebrating the anniversary of a fast. The
Yes.
whole parade.
Forge from the love of liberty. The first word in our anthem is forge.
I get
done.
one.
It's a forgery.
I done.
The question is, the Americans replaced the British in terms of the control of the oil resources of Trinidad and Tobago, which they still control up to today. Our land went into their hands in vast tracts. People talking about Caroni Limited. You know how much oil company land exists in Trinidad
I
and
know.
Tobago?
When I was reading
And
the
who owned
Petro
it?
Trinidad and all
Who
this, I
owned
know-
land in Tobago after 1940? Coming up the road. Tobago has a little different history from Trinidad. In my opinion, Tobago is a different nation from Trinidad.
Absolutely.
Right?
Totally.
But we were forced together by the British in
Absolutely.
1889, and we have not created a free and equal union
We've
between
not
us.
created a nation state out of those 2 islands. We've never
No,
done
we've
that.
never done it.
And the THA made it worse. It didn't make it better.
And this bill that is before the parliament, calling, what they calling it? Internal self-government for Tobago. That is going to make it even
Chaos.
worse. Because that bill is to entrench the PNM as the ruling party in Tobago.
Okay, so,
That-
okay.
So all I'm saying is,
I just want to say this.
these things that we created in 1962, the people of this country weren't allowed to create it. The PNM usurped
So,
the whole
okay,
stage.
I will ask my question to you when
When we removed ourselves from the same federation you just mentioned, you know where that decision was made? In a PNM convention down in Chagaramas. Not by the public, but by the PNM, to remove this country from the federation.
Right, so I think we'll all come to an agreement, all of us, not the young people, the old people, and senior people, because we have touched upon some salient things.
people in the middle.
And that is where I think the discourse should probably go into. Now, one of the mantras of the PP is to educate, inform, and empower. The mere fact that you came up with that mantra, if you look at it without cognitive dissonance, why do you want to educate if you thought they were educated? Why do you want to inform if they have an education? Why do you want to empower if they have power? And I think we just touched upon all of those things unwittingly, because we keep throwing out the sort of byline. Educate, inform, empower, and then we move on to the substantive policies, housing, education.
We were trying to fix
And
stuff.
we just move on.
No,
But
because
you
we're trying to
just
fix
stop
stuff. Yeah.
and look at the words. You see, Bill Clinton was really good at it. Is does not mean is. I did not have sexual relations with that woman. Words. When you look at what is being said, I am of the opinion, and Mr. Weatherhead seems to be supporting me, and first time I met the gentleman, the transition from the colonial period to what we inherited in 1962 was what you call a switch and bait. That's all. Independence is a euphemism. Democracy, in its literal sense, does not exist. We think we have a democracy. If you really think we have a democracy, get all the polling results, see how many people in this country vote, see how many people vote for that group and this group, and see how many people are really making a decision to put 41 members in parliament. Ask yourself, that's a democracy. The numbers statistically, and Mr. Amar is very adamant upon stats. That is not a democracy.
But his point,
right?
That until the people, his point makes your point.
The institutions that we inherited, we tweaked, we renamed them, was done specifically to provide continuity. And we believe it's something brand new. The PSA, the this, the that. But there is a word you keep using, and I don't think you understand the gravitas of the word. Right? Everything needs to be demolished, broken down,
undo and redo. Undo and redo.
Now, once you purchase an old house, how many of us are going to sit around here as investors in the property and have an hour discussion? Once we get there, everybody says, I've got a 6% investment in the house. Ground floor is made out of nogging, wooden floor, termites in the ladder. If we sit and discuss, it was built in 1500. It has some beautiful fretwork that the colonial did with handwork. Now this gully is to take away the rainwater with the sewage water to the system made out of rivers. That's exactly what we are doing. Somebody gets up and says, you know what? Where is Ramdeen with the backhoe?
Yes, I hear you.
Jealousy kills. That's the tagline on the truck. You bulldoze it, you bring in a crew, you build a foundation, you go up.
Yeah, but
Berlin's standing seam roof.
The only difference
with a wind factor to take on any hurricane that comes through the country. Metaphorically speaking.
The difference is that is nice words. It's society.
See, you can't just throw around the country.
Ready for that.
No, exactly. And his analogy is throw around the country.
Let me add the
1970 and 1990.
No, this is where I'm coming to. That societies that have to be rebuilt only comes out of that type of aggressive,
a priest said to me,
national destruction.
A priest said to me,
you cannot build something if you don't destroy it.
Yeah, and I want to tell you
this. And Trinidad and Tobago, I am not calling for any kind of anarchy in the country.
I know, but this is it. And a priest said to me, Philip, stand down. They are going to need people to rebuild this country. Stand aside. That all of this is going to come to a head. Robert, everybody seeing it. Your Minister of Finance tripped over his own ego when he said it to the IMF. When Colm Imbert said, they ain't riot yet.
Yeah.
When they sent to order the 20 locker buses, how much they bring in? How much buses they bring in? You see they have mobile...
The refurbished buses, they said.
Detention buses.
So the Black Maria is gone. So we have buses to arrest people who protesting. That is where we're going now.
Well, we come back, that is in the hands of a man called Commissioner of Police.
Not at all. No. Yeah. No. It's not just him. Because they only appointed him for 3 years. Not at all. Gary is in a dangerous position. They only appointed him for 3 years. And I know. I'm not picking up for Gary at all. I'm saying to you, this government and the architects behind them, I know that they're using Gary's ego. Because Gary's enjoying himself. And the more media you give Gary, the more successes you give Gary. And I mean, he's a good guy. Gary's an enjoyable guy to watch, enjoy himself at that level. But I'll tell you something. He could be being manipulated to allow for the very police state that they're building. And Gary is just the face. When did you think that they would be using a commissioner of police to do tourist videos for Trinidad and Tobago? They're using him. Yeah. They're using Gary's popularity numbers to hide their nefarious intention.
And the night of election in 2015, I told the political leader with whom I was associated at that time and some of his executive, on that very night, I said, Keith Rowley is back to finish the job that Patrick Manning started.
Dictatorship.
what Patrick Manning was doing was concentrating the
Consolidating
entire power
power hegemony.
in a single person.
Yeah.
That is why he had a whole round table of
Every law that
people
Farris wrote.
rewriting the constitution.
Every law that Farris
and
wrote
this is what
has to be
Rowley has
repealed.
written in the interest of the big monopolies in
Okay,
this country.
so let's-
What's the first action of this government?
Pressure
They
wash
fired-
stadium.
They fired the governor of the central bank and restored the monopoly on foreign exchange to the banks. That's the first action this government took.
Well, before I'm taken to one of those specially retrofitted buses, I just want to go on record that I wasn't asking for anarchy. I was just saying, when a system or series of systems isn't working, like in the analogy of the house, God to destroy it, to rebuild it. That's not for anyone.
Mr. Gentleman, this conversation
that's
started
not for anyone.
with a prime minister about a prime minister who has hanging over his head like the proverbial sword of Damocles an allegation of treason and an accusation of sedition.
And nothing is going to come out of any of those
I
things
agree.
because we already articulated expressive views about the failed institutions.
I
we
do
inherited.
not like to say that. I do not like to be part of a conversation where people say that. I believe in the power of the people. I want to say that social media is the great equalizer. It is a liberator. It is changing the game globally. The face of the world is changing.
Not in
You
Trinidad.
cannot
and
get more than
We are all
you
stupid.
cannot get, you cannot get more
I
than
accept that. Take it from me.
you cannot get
You
more
can fool
than
yourself
you cannot get more than 100 people
to come out.
to march
Yes,
for what you are addressing
correct.
on the proviso. 50 are paid, 25 were in juice, and the other 25 are securing their jobs.
So should
But
we stop?
Ian, but can you get them to make an informed decision in the polling? But we said earlier that we don't have a democracy, and I agree. PNM, UNC, PNM, we had an ad running on radio. How is this a real democracy if you're voting for these same recycled politicians over and over? But if we are here educating, empowering, and informing them, if we are here giving them options, if we are here telling them what is wrong, showing them how it's wrong, we might not get them marching in the streets, but can we wake up Trinidad and Tobago enough
Well, let me tell you, you
to
could
have
wake
them
up.
make an informed decision?
You could
from-
wake up Trinidad and Tobago if we seriously start now by taking a lot of the physical evidential proof we have in graphics. When I say in graphics,
Sabga want to close down social
in
media.
no in
Sabga want you to only get it to the
Smartphone,
people through
social
Guardian.
no in sound bites, and we ply the country left and right with it. You see, a lot of those people who live in those areas have not heard Keith Rowley make his statements, and there is no media house that is getting out there. We don't have the empirical information of understanding who listens to what radio station, where, and how, and who listens to what
Ian-
television station.
Ian
And
Griffith says it is impossible. Robert Amar agrees.
I
didn't say it
You're
impossible.
misinterpreting it. You're
You
misinterpreting it.
just said,
No,
just
that's not what he
said,
said,
I
though.
can't get 100 people to march.
Do not
But
do
I
like
did-
Mr. Smith on the way to Washington. Don't filibuster. Don't
Do you
filibuster.
think that we could fix this?
We can fix it, but we have to have an understanding what it is you want to fix. Appealing to the sentiments, informing, educating, and empowering is not going to be, is part of the process. There is something more fundamental.
Let me ask the question
It's
different.
the educational
ask the
system.
question
No, ask it different. Let me answer the way you ask it. If you don't like the answer, then reframe it. I'll
No,
reframe the
I-
answer.
I want-
You reframe the
no,
question.
no,
I'll
I just
reframe
want
the
to know,
answer.
is it hopelessly
Don't fill up
doomed?
Mr. Dr.
Is it
Smith.
hopelessly doomed?
Mr. Smith to Washington.
Is it
Ever
hopelessly
saw that
doomed?
movie? He
Is it-
talks for hours.
Is it hopelessly doomed?
You want definitive and specific answers for very complex problems. It don't work like that.
But Sparrow sang what we're talking about.
Sparrow-
Yeah, but it
10
didn't
to
change
40 years ago.
nothing.
Exactly.
so my point to you is that
But
there
if
is a,
Sparrow sing about the brown paper in the hospital and that public transportation not working and public health is a disaster and the twin icons of corruption, if Sparrow sang about that,
and the people say
40
okay.
years
You are
ago.
actually validating everything that's being said.
I'm not fighting it. I am trying to get us to a
Okay.
point where we know.
So Philip, I've said this once, let me say it a second time. The transition of agitating the population would strongly depend on using technology carrying the message throughout the country, not in pockets. We need to take a weekend, and if we have 41 constituencies, we need 41 microphones with the same message played in the 41 constituencies. Here is what Keith Rowley said about ABCDEFG. Here is what Stuart Young told you about so. Here is what has happened in the parliament on so date. Start paying attention. We're coming back next week to tell you more. Not too much. Same point you make. If we give them too much, they get turned off. This is a 5-minute or a 6-minute kind of interaction in the society.
So you don't think it's hopeless?
It's not hopeless, but it requires an action that requires multiplicity of things happening at the same time throughout the country. You cannot go and put up a platform in Diego Martin and go up and start talking and expect the whole country to listen. Let's need what is called simultaneous action. If we start doing something like that, then the people get informed and they're looking, it's like a soap opera if you want to call it that. But next week they're looking to see where I'm coming to tell them. And the following week they're looking to see where I'm coming to tell them.
Strategy.
And somewhere down the road, what is going to happen is people will say, wow, that's true, because now they start paying attention. The empowering starts. But we can't empower without carrying the information to them. 41 microphones, 41 sets of messages, every place including Tobago hearing. The THA accounts has not been audited. Did you know that? What is happening with you as a citizen of Trinidad and Tobago? Are you caring about this? Do you know that you're supposed to make sure that these audited accounts is done every year?
That's such a good idea, but what about if next week they tune you out?
How they tuning you out when it's your microphone?
Because they're fighting the truth now.
No,
Listen to what Clyde tell you. Listen to what Clyde tell you. You are putting information, Robert. We do this
You
non-stop.
are in control of the vehicle. This is not about you going on the radio or the television. I'm talking about direct intervention in the community.
Clyde, you think that will work?
It has to be done. The point I've made, and I'm making it again. In 1962, the people of this country, the best brains of this country and some of the most humble people sat down and wrote a plan for Trinidad and Tobago. The PNM said, no, we alone must decide this country. In 2019, the people of this country must come to a position of saying, we will decide our future. And people have to help bring that about. That is where leadership comes from.
How do you bring that word to the table when Marlene McDonald handed out keys to Fort Villas in Fort George or Fort View or some craziness and told them in full glare of the media, don't forget now you have to go and vote PNM, you know, because you got a house. Take public funds for political reasons.
But why did she say that?
Misbehavior in public office. And there's nobody that I could write and report it
But
to.
why did she say that?
But the point I want to make is, how do you get people who, as Robert said, and Ian, dumbed down, undereducated, how do you get those people who believe that their lives are managed by the handouts that they get from the state and that those handouts are contingent on their political allegiance? How do you get them to shift? Because you see, when you tell somebody the truth enough times, you see when you're shifting them, you know. But they're so refusing to move, they bring God into the conversation. Only God could fix it.
Yeah, but
I tell people, I said, I can't believe the whole world, you see there's evidence. You could look and see everything change in the world and everywhere could fix but Trinidad.
But
When
I
people
just want you to
understand-
keep that thought process, but I just want you to answer the question so the audience can hear. Why did she say that when she handed out the keys?
That's the purpose of HDC. To make financiers rich and to tie voters to the government that gave them the keys.
Well, actually, that wasn't the answer I was looking for. So maybe I had an
What?
answer.
No, but what do you want to hear? Because make your point.
The answer was this. She did not have to say that because that is built in to the assumption. So I don't know why she used those words, only because they're not taxable. Because if she was paying tax on speaking, she would have handed out the keys. Why increase your commitment to the government via PYE?
You know, I hear
You just hand out the keys. Moneyland had a raffle going leading up to the election. This week 500, this week 5, this one that.
All them play the same game.
Exactly. So why I asked the question is to demonstrate they all know, the beneficiaries know why they're getting the keys. It's implicit what you're going to do. Another word comes back. So we have educate, inform, and empower. One of the undermining things, or one of the what you call the cancers that is probably permeating all of this, is a well-crafted and designed part of the fractured system from 62 called entitlement. By making you feel entitled and beholden to me, I could educate you. You can go to any one of the schools you want to, but I didn't teach you to think. So you're not informed even though you're reading the newspaper. And when I hand out the keys or whatever it is I do, you will vote for me. And that's a cyclical pattern. Now,
So it's not,
the UNC
so it's not
didn't
entitlement.
really, the UNC didn't really exist for that long. They're sort of a recent incarnation, and we have discussed the history of their formation. As I said many times, the blood flowing in the veins of the UNC is from the PNM. So, dialysis could work for either one, and there'll be no rejection. It's quite honest, right? They play the game the same way because they now have looked at the same game that is being played. Create people to feel a sense of dependency on me.
But when you just
and
said,
once you feel a sense of dependency on me,
but
I don't think through everything.
Yeah, who benefits?
Most of the disgruntled people in the PNM who are speaking now, the Twiggies and whatever, do you know why they're speaking out? They preface it with this. They in charge and I ain't get nothing.
Who benefits?
Again, to repeat, those that are speaking out preface their comment without realizing what they're saying. Our party's in power and we ain't get anything. And at least we got some laptops. See where they went?
You see, at the end of the day, everything you're saying is a fact. And we have that out there. We're talking that, I swear to you, I've had that conversation since
And that is why when you keep repeating it ad nauseum, they default to the position because the facts are too indigestible. There isn't sufficient hydrochloric acid in the stomach to break it down.
But
so you know what they tell you? God will take care of it because now we got a supreme leader involved. Match up that tree.
I can't fight God.
But
Robert, Ian, everybody, Clyde, somebody is benefited, whether it's PNM or UNC in office. Somebody's benefited.
That body is what we call nowadays the 1%, is what Pandey call the parasitic oligarchy. It is the people who control the economy of Trinidad and Tobago. Some of them are foreign, in the form of multinationals, etc. Some of them are present in Trinidad.
How could 1% of a population?
How did 1% of South Africa control a whole big place?
No. I'm not saying that it can't happen. Because before the age of enlightenment and information, it was easy to divide and rule.
I tell you already how.
I just want to say this.
I
like your strategy. But I want to
because they create
I want to ask a question.
The state.
The age of enlightenment, the age of information. You see, I could have tell Tony something, and every version of Tony, the same story, and they could buy my story collectively. Nowadays, all of them have access to much more choices besides me.
But they're not empowered.
No, understood.
They're listening but not hearing. You fail to understand, Philip, that we are living in a society where I am okay because I am okay. We have not changed. This country's people is the biggest problem of the country.
Trinidad tolerates what it can tolerate?
No. Trinidad's population does nothing because they feel that they don't have the empowerment to do anything. We come back to Clyde's point.
That's a very important point. That is a very important point.
And that is where we are.
No, but that is a very important point. That if the people feel that they don't have power, then the solution is to give the people power.
And this is what I'm saying to you. You have 100,000 and 1 million people look at you and they post and whatever.
Power, Philip. It's for them to demand power.
Even better.
I want to read something. Clyde might recognize this. Without the empowerment of the citizens, the electors, in relation to the elected, there will be no change in the political culture. The political culture is a function of the political system and who exercises political power in the society. Without understanding that changing the political culture is impossible without changing the electoral and political processes will only lead to more buzzwords devoid of real content about new politics, new political culture, new society, with all the fundamentals of the old intact. It was actually something that Clyde sent to me on August the 20th, and I just thought it was very
And I
fitting.
just want to take Ian's word, entitlement. That word is really ingratiation. It's not entitlement. I, as a human being, am entitled to the product of this society because I contribute to creating it. That's my entitlement. That is my right. But when you tell me my right depends on you, the PNM, and I owe you because you give it to me.
I was saying entitlement.
You're not-
I was saying entitlement.
So what you're really selling me is that I must be ingratiated to
No,
you.
when I said entitlement, and I stand by the clarification, what I probably said, when you say entitlement in the case of the handing out of the keys, I was talking about a dependency. You are entitled to this from me. You vote for me, you toe the party line, don't think about anything else. Then you become dependent on me. I will give you more. You vote for me, I go into office,
So
you
then
get on with your life.
Twiggy says, my party in power, I should be getting something.
Right, so Lloyd Best,
And the
the
UNC
plantation
says,
economy,
here's what you should get, a laptop.
right, he has,
Not you should have more rights over the elected people, you know. You should get a laptop.
Lloyd Best has a treasure trove of information talking about the plantation economy. Unfortunately, he's not with us, because if he was here, he would articulate it. And it can be read, and it's very germane to the situation we are in. And maybe the party should take a look at revisiting some of the thoughts he put there. One of the most brilliant minds this country ever produced.
I want to ask a question, right? I think we could consider this the closing question, but everybody could add their input to this. Is it that there is sufficient impetus or evidence that suggests that if we invest more in educating, you want to do 41 constituencies, somebody else might say 1,000, throw $10 million behind educating, whatever. Is there evidence to suggest that educating the people at this point, because it's 57 years now we entrenched in this madness. I mean, the first generation or two, I think they might have been seeing the nonsense as well as the dependency growing and may have had a choice then. But the people who've grown into this institutionally broken country, because nothing works, is there evidence that suggests that we could retrain how they think to get them, we could empower them, educate, inform them to the point where the masses start to see themselves and the country? Or do we have, is it too late? I'm asking us two questions in one. Is it too late? Or is the Titanic bound to hit that iceberg, no matter what you do, and then you deal with the damage after?
I think, Philip, you have to understand that the reason why Trinidad and Tobago continues along the path it is continuing is because we operate in what is called the divide and rule syndrome. That has continued from 62 up. We are at a point where we have spent time in trying to build a new population, younger people, who supposedly with the character of education and understanding is at the point that they are more informed than those of us in 62. But it also goes to say that while they are more informed, they really are more reactionary than action-oriented. They are waiting to see what will happen before they make a move. And there is nobody causing that. And I say this to tell you that at the place we are at now, which is that I think the society is getting to the boiling point, we may see something that unfolds that none of us would like. And that is already rearing its head with the level of criminal deviant behavior that we see taking place in the country with impunity. Nobody cares about nobody anymore. When you see that a society starts to kill its old people, you have to tell yourself we're rich. Okay? The young people of Trinidad and Tobago will be the savior of Trinidad and Tobago, but the young people of Trinidad and Tobago have to decide whether they want to save Trinidad and Tobago. And at this stage of the game, the young people of Trinidad and Tobago have decided to ask for Trinidad and Tobago, the Titanic, it hit the rock already. Here what? Let me see which one we can get on that boat and, hey, you can't come. Because they also thinking about carrying the society the same way it was. My view at this stage of the game is that we can make the change, but it requires using, as I said to you, a technological approach, because the people we're trying to meet, greet, and get a guide to where we want them to go, they are not the people of the 50s and the 60s. They're the people of the 90s and beyond. And those same people are not listening to talk. They want to see realization. Those people want to see factualization. They want the empirical information. They want it to be supported by something that they could say, yes, I understand. Right now, nobody is doing that. And at this stage of the game, it's a matter of, what you started off saying, he say, she say, we say, they say, it boils down to that. It's either we pick up and start doing something that's different, because if we use the same old formula, street corner, talk on the thing, go on a platform, put up a soapbox, tell everybody anything, 20 people. Go to the next corner, 15 people. Go to the next corner, 5 people. When you finish, you tell him have 100,000. We need a massive national rollout. If we have a massive national rollout where we start telling the people, here what, starting from this week, we're going to be doing ABC. Check us next week if you're interested. We're going to be on so and so place. And 41 sets of people understand that. We're going to start to see 5,000 people start showing up in total. And now we start saying, hey, next week you go in Valencia, all you come out. Because unless we don't move the people to the power of action, we will be in reaction mode. We need an action-driven society and not a reaction-driven society.
Ian.
Well, since we are wrapping up, I'm just going to wrote down something, and it's probably succinctly. What we have to overcome is the syndrome of low expectations on the part of the population. While you're trying to educate and inform and empower them, they have been educated since '62 through the existing systems which are designed for failure, and you have inculcated in them a syndrome of low expectations to motivate those persons from that syndrome is a catalyst that you're looking for to propel them to do anything. If not, the status quo remains.
Can it be saved, or are we doomed?
If I didn't believe it could be saved, I would go home and sleep and take a good night's rest and look after my health. The question is, in the whole history of this 57 years of independence, there have been those who have been thinking it can be saved and who have been working for it. And there are those who have been saying, let we keep it just so. And that's the battle. And that battle has become intensified now because those who are saying, let me keep it just so, are becoming more vicious in trying to defend the status quo. I just want to read this. National purpose must precede and influence sectional interests. And this alone will lead to resolute endeavor on the part of all individuals and groups to work for the general welfare, development, and happiness of the whole of Trinidad and Tobago. That was said in 1967 by Pegasus in putting forward a document they called Project Independence.
And it sounds a lot like the preface of the Progressive Empowerment Party manifesto.
So, and that is where the battle is. You see, Robert says we have to get out there and massively talk to the people. You have to, and you talk about the power of social media. You remember something they call the Arab Spring?
Yeah.
And they said, oh, this is the evidence, social media, nobody leading this thing, but people just coming out. Where did it end? In Egypt, it reinforced the status quo. The army became most powerful in Egypt. So the question is, how do you bring people to the point of acting in their own best interest? because people have been manipulated to act contrary to their own best interests. That's what our independents have done to us. When you say low expectations, that's what we've been manipulated into not acting in our best interest as Trinidad and Tobago. So how do we get people to act in their own best interest? That's the issue facing our society now. And if we fail, if we give up and say it's not possible, all we will end up with is a desolate piece of place. I spoke to somebody from Montreal the other day at Carifesta. I said, how many people are living on the island? Because you know that's a volcanic place and most of it was destroyed. 4,600 people live on that island right now. 4,600 in a small part of it. But they are gung-ho about Montserrat because that is their space. They have a diaspora all over England and all about. But 4,600, we have 1 million plus, and we ain't gung-ho about it. I can't believe that. I will never believe that. I will not be that. Because Trinidad and Tobago is mine, is yours, and we have to together make it what we want it to be and stop letting people tell us what it is. That's what the mistake we made in 62. William started to tell us he alone could tell Trinidad and Tobago what it is. And the PNM, you know how they continue that? It graded in part of our low expectations that the only people who capable of running this country is the PNM. And that can't be true.
Well, when I said earlier that I understand perfectly, and I mean, I agree, I can't understand everything perfectly, but assessing what we have as governance in this country right now, I can tell that it was never properly set up, and it is only going to continue like this if we allow the people who are right now, the gatekeepers for it, the PNM and UNT, that we keep playing catch with back and forth every 5 years. If we continue to vote them into office, me again, I mean, I'm not representing all young people, but I am speaking for a majority of the population who is seeing this for what it is and is tired of what it is. Can Trinidad and Tobago be safe? Of course it can. That's why I'm here. The work ahead of us, though, I mean, what Robert suggested, what we do every day, what this show is about, is all about getting people to understand that, you know, we can't accept what we have been accepting, and it is a mammoth task, but I, again, would not be here if I did not believe it can be done.
Well, Trinidad and Tobago, hello, how you going? I know all you seem quiet, but I have to say, this has been probably one of the most exciting shows I've ever had thus far with Plain Talk. It's sad to also know I may be the last time I'm on this show. We're starting a new one soon enough. But back to the actual topic. The information put out on this table here today within this show from Ian and Robert and Clyde, I think is very much priceless for the population to be able to assimilate this information and to at least have that to go to as critical minds, critical information being put into the public space. A lot of the things that the panelists spoke about is things that the Progressive Empowerment Party also has been having in the works, trying to have a processes and create a model of sorts that can be placed onto the ground. I had someone recently ask what type of propaganda we are placing into the public space, and it was funny. I had to turn around and said to them, our propaganda is truth, and that's what we stand on. Excuse me. If we have a chance in saving Trinidad and Tobago, I do believe, without a doubt, we can change this country. We can change the mindset. But a lot of what Robert has said today, especially, I have to agree with because it has been a train of thought that I've had myself. But again, being in the bowels of the Progressive Empowerment Party, and knowing what is happening right now as far as what we're trying to roll out and the strategies that we're using and really getting to the people. I also agree with you, Robert, where getting into the young people's minds is a critical phase that we have to put a lot of emphasis in, because not only the grassroots, on average parents have 2 kids. So if you're looking at a grassroots of 1, you're doubling that number twofold. So basically, being able to captivate that number, I think, would give us that edge and the chance in actually winning this, hands down. So yes, I do believe that we can save Trinidad and Tobago, and our focus and emphasis should be on a great scale where the younger minds are concerned, and using social media as we have, and even in a more efficient way, even in a ramped up way and all, in getting that information out there, because again, that is what the population has been starving for the last 57 years, is information, not being able to know what their rights are, not being able to know how the laws work for them and for their benefit. It's just been a big charade for 57 years, and again, divide and rule, that's the name of the game, and that's what we've been practicing for the last 57 years, and it's about this time now for us to actually make that change. So again, for everyone who's here, I thank you so much. There was nothing I needed to say at this table here today.
That's your scapegoat.
No, that's my scapegoat. No, but it's real, because again, a lot of the information that's been placed on the table is stuff that I would have said myself, because it is things that's been in my mind. But out of all the information being placed on the table here today, there's a lot that I also agree with Mr. Clyde, Ian as well, but who took the cake for me today would be Mr. Amar. Only because a lot of the pointers that been placed on the table by him definitely has been things that I've been thinking about myself. So that's my 2 cents. But before I go, I'll just want to say, yes, that's my 10 cents. Just a little plug real quick for the Thrift in Style on December, September 2019, 10 a.m. This is happening down south, so south side, come on down. We're going to have lots of goodies, back to school and all that good stuff. Very cheap, very good prices, great quality. And again, we're just trying to help the population at large. So again, that's happening at the Creative Arts Center in San Fernando on the 7th September 2019 at 10 a.m. Boss?
That was your 10 cents?
That's my 10 cents.
Are you wrapping up? Because I have 3 cents to put in.
I want to give him some change.
Okay, all right.
I want to give him some change for that 10 cents. No, take your 3 cents.
Well, since we're talking events, continuing after that, well, before that actually, our New York team is having their event on Labor Day, the 2nd of September, in front of the office. That's 410 Utica Avenue. You can check out our Facebook page for more information. It's a street side food sale, so all the New York people who are abroad and they're missing Trini food home, you're getting some of that on Labor Day, the 2nd of September. And the Pep Toronto team is also having their Back in Times party on the 21st of September. I will double check that date. But before I go, I just want to thank these people from the New York team who would have contributed again to our constant upgrade of our studio equipment. Stafford Charles, Michael Alonso, Hayden Wilson, and Byron Garcia, thank you very much for contributing towards some of our new studio equipment. We will be testing that out pretty soon.
Philip, before you close, let me just wish Trinidad and Tobago a happy independence. We're not going to be here when we celebrate it. 57 years is a hell of a long time. There's a lot we have to be proud about for our country.
Surviving it.
Not only
No,
surviving.
as a people, Robert,
Yeah.
seriously.
Yeah.
Surviving in madness. But anyway,
Yeah.
you do your right.
But the important thing right now is for us to reflect on tomorrow. Because after the 31st, we start all over again. And we, the people of Trinidad and Tobago, have to really become serious as to what we really want. I am concerned that we have this kind of, what should I say, society that has received a shot of, what is called it again?
Novocaine.
Novocaine. We seem to be on Novocaine for...
Numb.
We numb. And I am really, really appealing to you, the people of Trinidad and Tobago. When you see this this video, get it out to every human being you can get it out to. Because without spreading the word, the reality is we will stay in a cocoon. We need to burst the cocoon. We need to get out of this cocoon. We need to be in the open air. And we need, as you say, Philip, rebuild. Without having anarchy, because really and truly, Clyde is right. You have to be the contributor of the next level of a Trinidad and Tobago you want. If you allow it up to society of elected persons, you will be in the same quagmire, running around like a hamster inside of the cage, just going wrong and wrong until you burn out and then you fall down. And as you put a female inside, you get back up everything.
Robbie.
Well, we were doing a wrap up, but as everybody doing some small change, I don't know, Clyde, you have some small change you want to throw in? You have any 3 cents, 5 cents you want to?
All I would say is to use, I mean, your imagery is nice about the Novocaine and things, but I think it's more like Dorian. The Novocaine is more like the calm before the storm.
Yeah, well,
And we've had a storm in imagine 1970 took place 8 years after independence.
Yeah.
8 years
Yeah,
after.
correct.
I told people that.
Forward to the people.
The Black
8
Power
years after
Uprising marched
independence.
against Eric Williams and the PNM. You have any small change you want to try? Holding all the
There's enough
coins.
change around this table. Trust me.
Listen, I had written here, politically depressed, numb. Sean Srinarayan, he's the deputy chair of this party. We were having a conversation once, and I was telling him sometimes getting people to even stop and listen is like trying to nail jello to a wall. He called it trying to herd cats. It's impossible, herding cats. And to look at, and I really need to thank the people who are on the table. I thank all the guests, all the people who pay attention, all the people who follow, all the people who share. Tony, Felicia, Clyde, Robert, Ian. The fact that people still believe as much as they believe, all the people who contribute to all the work that all of us are doing, and there are a lot of other people doing a lot of other things. There are a lot of other movements outside there, and I know Robert has this idea of a catalyst that could get everybody around a table, and I want to pray, to hope, to wish for that political invigoration. I want to believe that we could get to a place where this mass awakening could happen, where people could wake up and realize, besides myself and my living arrangements and what I need for me, if I don't protect this country, my life will continue to get harder. Things will continue to be dangerous. I won't live a peaceful, prosperous life if I only care about myself. Today, I got 15 WhatsApp messages that the Bayshore people, the Bayshore committee, are celebrating. They have written permission to close the gates at night, so the rest of Trinidad could sink, as long as Bayshore is safe. And that is an insane mindset, and I am not knocking the people of Bayshore who want to sleep in safety. But as I told the people in Bayside Towers, 2 occasions in the past 6 months, bullets left Cocorite and killed people in front of your gate. One was driving by. It's only a matter of time. There are not enough walls. Look at history. There are not enough walls. There are not enough gates. If we do not pay attention to the circumstances that affect everybody in this society, we are sowing the seeds of our own destruction. We've gotten to the place where 25 people could get killed in a week, where we've had the media and the police and the gang members and the people of the depressed communities telling us all the different stories of why Sandman and Dole and all these different gang leaders are dying, and then you see the videos on social media of their funerals and the thousands of people who are willing to put US and Scotch, and it ain't done, You don't kill Sandman and the whole thing that Sandman built gone. You don't kill Dole and Dole legacy over. We are growing what Helen Francis sang in Change when he won the Monarch last year. We are building a bandit factory. These people have no hope. They have no opportunity. Wayne Sturge spoke about the 7,000 people that fail out of our education system every year. Fail. Some don't show up, some don't go, some get 0 passes, and you could blame all you want to blame and all the family and the community and whoever. At the end of the day, in 10 years, that's 70,000 people that have no hope.
True.
And where you think they're going? Who you think they're going to turn to when hungry belly rumbling? We, those who leave it, if you don't think you will miss it, if you don't think you'll miss the song of Pan, you'll chip in the road, you'll lime on the block, you wouldn't miss the flag, the anthem wouldn't break your heart. If you hear it in another man's land, fine, go. Go. Those of you who go in, but you really don't want to leave, we have a year and 6 months, September the 10th, we have a year and 6 months by law And in that time, we could save Trinidad and Tobago. We could wake up to our responsibility. We could get into the conversation. We could put aside all of the distraction. We could say next year for Carnival, our ship sinking. All of these people on this table, given an opportunity, is it doomed or can we save it? For Sparrow to jump out himself 40 years ago and sing "We Like It So," he stayed Trinidad and Tobago and built Trinidad and Tobago. All of us, all of this, our legacy as a country has to be, when they write the history of the world, the people of Trinidad and Tobago did not let their ship sink. Let that be our story. Everybody and all of the conversation that took place today, and again, as Tony said, was on a remarkably high level, and I am putting all of you on notice. There's going to be a part 2. We have to continue this conversation. Clyde, you will bring your project like Pegasus book, and we're going to invite others into this conversation. Robert is absolutely correct. We do this all day, every day. Ian could tell you, Ian and I used to meet every week to plant the seeds that became this political party, that is this movement. There were a lot of movements. Robert has his movement. Clyde is building outside there. Everybody, a lot of people. And those of you who are right now working, putting out the effort, come and talk. We all have to get on the same page. Anarchy has been going on for too long at this level. The people up on top, they're united. It don't matter what we're going through on the ground, they're meeting. It is time for all of Trinidad and Tobago to take responsibility for this nation and come together with whatever you bring to the table. Come. Let us try. Let us try, because the alternative is chaos and failure and misery. And Robert said, Ian said, Clyde, nobody wants anarchy. The people at the bottom, they will lose the most. The little bit they have will burn down. We need a better country by the power of our lawful vote. And we could do that. We could do that. Until next week, this has been Plain Talk. Thank you.